News out today, Greece has finally reached a conditional agreement to begin the discussion of the possibility of a bailout. It's regularly claimed that Greece should follow the Irish example of taking austerity and begin the process of recovery. Could it really be that straightforward? Is Ireland a good model for Greece? I'm talking to Ebisch from Caxton FX to find out. Nicholas, frequently Ireland is held up as an example for Greece, a country that went through the financial struggle, engaged with the Troika, and seemingly working its way out of crisis. Is it fair to compare these two very different economies?
Well, it's not very fair to compare these two different economies because their economies are structured differently. The Irish economy now relies heavily on the export sector, dominated by foreign multinational corporations. European corporate taxes are some of the lowest in Ireland, which is why many large companies keep their headquarters there. This was key in driving economic growth for Ireland to exit its own financial struggles and housing market collapse. Conversely, Greece relies heavily on an export sector dominated largely by large Greek corporations, but also relies heavily on tourism, shipping, industrial products, and food export. Greece has been crippled with high levels of debt, increasingly increased austerity measures, including higher taxes, and that's really prevented growth from returning in a similar way that it did in Ireland.
Can we say that Ireland has recovered? Many say that the recovery is unequal, where the benefits of growth have not trickled down to the vast majority of Ireland's people. Would you agree?
Well, I'd say Ireland is recovering in the way that their annual GDP growth has returned to approximately 5%, which is nearly the pre-recessionary level. The Irish unemployment rate has come down from nearly 15% in 2012 to its current level of 9.1%. The stock market's been performing well. Ireland's had a very positive balance of trade. However, it's not recovered fully. As inflation's been pretty poor in the last few years, the employment rate is still far from what's considered full employment by most standards, and interest rates remain at 0.05%. And the benefits haven't really been equally distributed. I'd agree that the majority of Irish people have not reaped benefits of growth, although there has been a moderate trickle-down effect into the broader economy. The stance of Ireland to be accommodative to large multinational businesses has surely boosted employment in their large cities where there's a majority of population, and that's driven wages and real estate growth there, but the more rural parts of the country haven't experienced similar levels of growth.
Greece has finally come to a deal, though it did emerge that it was issued with an ultimatum: implement cuts or face a timeout period outside of the euro. One source says Taoiseach Enda Kenny was among a number of heads of state who argued that this apparent threat be dropped from the draft text being discussed. Would you say this is coming from a place of empathy from Ireland to Greece, or more frustration?
Well, Kenny's position of recommending that the apparent threat be dropped from the draft is more likely to be coming from a place of empathy rather than frustration. If you're going to boil it down to those two, the Irish minister knows what it's like to be stuck with seemingly insurmountable amounts of debt and threatened with austerity from international creditors. However, this empathy is based on Irish preservation as well, because a Grexit would create volatility and uncertainty in the Eurozone, which would hurt Ireland's economy as well as the broader Eurozone economy. It's more likely than other European heads to be compassionate and a pro-Greek voice of reason to try to keep the single currency together. He'd be trying to avoid kind of further weakness, insecurity, and volatility in the meantime.
That's all from Nicholas and myself for now. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to keep clicking back to Dukescopy TV.